Welcome everyone to a special discussion today hosted in partnership with Masaood Power Division, titled Re-Energizing the Energy Sector, Walking Towards Carbon Neutral. My name is Simon Birkebeck. I'm a partner in Boston Consulting Group. We support corporations and government entities handling strategic questions, including how to prepare for and tackle their response to the energy transition. And I have the pleasure of moderating today's discussion. The topic of energy transition has, over the past years, grown to be top of mind for CEOs worldwide and also in the region. And there's a very big momentum happening. If we go back 5 years ago, 3% of the world's emissions were under a net zero pledge. Today, it's more than 80%. And similarly, on the corporate side, 5 years ago, 200 companies have signed up for science-based targets. And today, it's more than 2,000. We see that development globally, but also in the region, where you see net zero targets in a number of countries in the region, also in the UAE, of course, and a range of companies leading the charge locally. And we also see a number of big announcements within renewables, hydrogen, etc. I'm keen on hearing from the panel of industry experts today on how they see the challenges moving ahead and what is happening on the ground. So let me introduce the speakers for you. We have with us Ahmed Fatin, Power Systems VP in the Gulf of Schneider Electric. Welcome. We have Nawal Al-Hanai, Director of Future Energy Department at the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure of the UAE. We have Andrea Di Gregorio, Executive Director of the Energy Efficiency and Renewables Office at Ras Al Khaimah Municipality. We have Michelle Abisab, General Manager at Emerge, and Raso Bartenschlager, General Manager at Masaood Power Division. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, let us get started with the conversation. I'll start with you, Ahmed. Can you help us explain in what ways Schneider Electric is collaborating with the energy sector to reduce the carbon footprint across the region?
This is a quite important topic to reduce the carbon footprint, and it is the time to act. It is the time for our generation to change the trajectory of the CO2 emissions and to save the future of the next generations. So Schneider Electric's mission is to become a digital partner for sustainability and efficiency to the customers. With the expertise that we have in terms of energy consumption and energy digital transformation, to be able to properly monitor and control the energy consumption, reduce the generation, increase the efficiency, and hence reduce the CO2 emissions that are coming from the energy generation. Together with the energy transition towards the renewable energy, the new sources of energy, like the renewables and the clean hydrogen and all the new sustainable resources that we have today, where we can provide all the technologies to support our customers to implement it properly. Few examples of what we are doing in the region. We have recently signed an MOU with BP, under which terms we intend to combine capacity and skills and capabilities to scale up integrated energy solutions that will help our customers to operate efficiently and ensure that the high emissions will be reduced. When you combine the capacity of the companies, no one can do this alone. All the companies have to do it together. When you combine the capacity of the experts of the renewables, the solar, and all the renewable energy with the capacity of an integrated technology of Schneider Electric, you can reach the maximum efficiency and reduce the CO2 emission. We have also to partner with the consultant and the design offices. One of the examples that we have done in the region with Doris, where we combined efforts with them to enhance the digital capacity during the design stage of the project, in which we create what we call the digital twin that helps our customers to monitor and to plan the execution of the project with the lowest CO2 emissions from the inception stage of the project by creating the digital twin. Those are few of the examples that we are implementing in the region, and we are planning for more to come because this is the objective of the future.
Thank you, Ahmed. And it seems the spirit of partnership and capability building is, you're not the only company thinking about this. We also see that at the federal level. If I turn to you, Nawal, the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure has recently launched a partnership with the German government for launching new plants in the energy sector. Could you speak to what key developments are being made in a broader sense to enable the production of clean energy, of course involving green hydrogen as well and synthetic fuel?
Thanks, Simon. Good afternoon, everyone. So to start with our dialogue with the German counterpart, the government of UAE and Germany have decided the ways of establish a framework for launching new action plans in the energy sector as part of the accomplishing of the Declaration of Intent of the joint collaboration that signed back in 2017. So it is not a new partnership, it is an older partnership that continue, and it is a role model partnership in our consideration. An extensive program was established that include forming action teams specialized in hydrogen and artificial fuel to support the ambition plan to increase the clean energy production and support the Paris Climate Change Agreement. So similarly, similar partnerships could be implement the plan for transformation into a clean energy assess both countries in drafting project initiative that support this target. And also Germany is one of the strategic partners of UAE in the field of energy. And their relations are witness promising improvement, and there are potential and future development opportunities that could help achieve their and our aspiration as well. So launching this Emirati-German bilateral task force on hydrogen and synthetic fuel is a significant step that support the UAE initiative to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. That was announced earlier by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of UAE. It confirmed that UAE leadership in the clean and renewable energy sector as green hydrogen contributes to enhance the global effort to reduce the carbon emission and mitigate climate change, as it is also a promising source for clean energy. With the support of all our champion, we already launched the hydrogen leadership roadmap that was launched in COP26 Glasgow last year. Thank you.
Ras, I'll turn to you for a perspective on how that is linking to the private sector. If you can speak to how your energy solutions and services enable organizations to deploy clean and renewable energy resources, also in the context of the net zero strategic initiative and the broader UAE energy strategy for 2050.
Sure, thank you. First of all, Masaood is an old company, so we are, let's say, with a lot of heritage here in the UAE. So we have started 50 years ago with the first gas turbine, so the power generation is a part of our DNA. Saying that, we also know that the carbon footprint of the energy produced today is not the best, so we are part of the problem. Understanding that we are part of the problem leads us to the point where we also are part of the solution. As Ahmed already said, and Nawal quite rightly said, the future has to change. And our products which we are working on, we have introduced or going to introduce, are a big part of reducing the carbon footprint, as well as working towards saving the let's say, the emission where we can in today's operation. Solar was mentioned before. Solar is only one of them. In the moment, I think there's a big hype on it, but solar will work towards hydrogen production, as Nawal mentioned it also. And then we have the other one, which is biomass. I mean, we are a world of people. There are biomass products, or let's say waste out there, which can be, let's say, used for generation. And again, there's a lot of things going on right now. However, with the guidance of the government and the clear visions of the government, let's say it makes it much easier for us as a private company, let's say as the operating business, to also decide on our strategies, where the importance is here is not only to have these products, is also to sustainable, let's say, support them throughout the life cycle of these applications. I mean, we talked about hydrogen, we talked about solar. They all need maintenance somehow. They need to be supported. they're not run by itself, right? It becomes more and more complicated when it comes to more, let's say, complicated solutions like biogas as example. Hydrogen is not the easiest to handle. So there's a lot of support required from the local, I would say, industry. But with the government, as the rules and let's say the strategies are out, it is also easy to plan for us to say, okay, there's a strategy. We are part of the solution. What do we need to support this? Thank you.
Thanks, Rasul. And maybe a follow-up question. When you provide the solutions, do you have a sort of fixed strategy where you provide a range of options, or are you focusing on a particular solution to drive this pathway towards 2050?
No, it's not. Let's say we are not following only the strategy in terms of now big solar providing to the market, or let's say biogas. So we're working on a much broader, let's say, form of application. If you talk about your homes, right? Everybody has a car park at home. How can this be utilized as a source of energy? We know that the e-vehicle charging is in the moment a big topic because the infrastructure is not there. How can the grid be decentralized to support e-vehicle charging where there is no grid connections? So we're working on several, let's say, applications and products to support these visions, which are actually very, very, let's say, ambitious visions, but also to make sure that these visions can be achieved. And I mean, the objectives here in the UAE with 2050, I would say it's very ambitious, but when the industry or the local companies, and then we have, as example here with Ahmed, global players work together, I think this ambition is actually not far-fetched, and it can be achieved in a good way.
That's very clear. And I think you mentioned the distributed part. I'm sure Michelle would have a perspective on this. Michelle, can you speak to how are you at Emerge providing distributed solar energy generation services and energy efficiency services to your clients?
Thank you, Simon, and hello, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. So first of all, let me introduce Emerge. So Emerge is a joint venture between Masdar and EDF to collaborate and to explore opportunities in energy efficiency, distributed solar, and street lighting. As an ESCO company, Emerge provides turnkey solutions to its clients through solar purchase agreements and shared savings agreements. So the way we operate, I'll give you just a simple example. Let's say you have a client in Abu Dhabi which consumes 10 million dirham of electricity every year. We would conduct an energy audit on that facility. And the purpose of the audit is to identify ways to save energy and to produce solar energy on the site. So through this site visit, we will identify could be opportunities for upgrading the cooling system, could be the ventilation system, the lighting system. So with that, we will go back, we will study what could be done to optimize the energy on that site. And we will come up with a proposal to that client that could be to minimize the consumption by 30% or 40%, which will be very much, it will be a win-win, because for us, we can also get back the savings, get back the capital investment from the savings. So whatever we invest to make all these retrofits, we will be paid back from the actual savings throughout a contract that could be up to 10 years. And the end user will be also benefiting by having totally new technologies on their building or sites, and they will benefit from a share of the savings. So this is on the shared savings agreement when we talk about energy efficiency. When we talk about distributed solar, we will also investigate where can we install solar PVs. It could be on the car park, it could be on the rooftop, it could be on a piece of land next to that facility. So we will also do the calculations. We see how much can we install, and we will take care of the full solution from design to procurement to the installation and the operation for up to 30 years. And we will sell electricity to that end user at a discounted rate. That's also a win-win, because we will recover our investment from the term of the agreement, and the end user will be getting renewable energy at a discounted tariff.
It's nice to hear that there are win-wins, right? This way that companies can save costs by doing what we anyways need to do in order to move towards the targets of the Paris Agreement and a net zero by 2050. Do you see that momentum, the momentum that we see globally and in the UAE in terms of targets and strategies? Do you also see that in your business in terms of your customers?
That's a great question. In fact, in the last few years, we've seen much more, feedback from the market. Many companies from the public or the private sector are reaching out to us to asking for the services. So awareness has definitely increased in the UAE. Of course, led by the announcement from the UAE government, whether it's the targets in Abu Dhabi and Dubai or Ras Al Khaimah, or the recent announcement net zero energy 2050. That's an amazing target, and of course, everyone has to put their hands together to reach to that target. So we've seen a big interest from the sector, from the market, reaching out to us. That's new. Before we used to knock on doors. Now really customers are knocking to us and trying to find ways how we can support. And I'm sure other energy service companies are finding the same trend as well.
Yeah, I think it's quite reassuring that there's this sort of win-win solution, and that we actually see that sort of translating into momentum on the ground. I'll switch to you, Andrea. We also see that in terms of the detailed planning of municipalities. And I'm keen to hear on what developments that were made in this area in terms of mitigating climate change in the Ras Al Khaimah Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Strategy for 2040. Could you speak to that, please?
Thank you, Simon. Good afternoon, everybody. In simple terms, our strategy mitigates climate change by reducing greenhouse gas emissions of the energy sector, broad terms. And we do that in two ways. The first way is to reduce the demand of energy, addressing the main energy uses, so buildings, infrastructure, transportation, industry. And the second way is to increase the share of renewable energy in the generation mix, therefore displacing volumes of conventional fuels that would be used otherwise to produce that energy. One of our focus area is buildings. Buildings have a large share of our energy consumption, and with our green building regulations, the BARGIL, that was issued in 2019, we are addressing new buildings with higher standards for construction. BARGIL, implemented only a little more than 2 years ago, counts today over 4,000 buildings permitted according to the new standards, and over 1,000 have already been completed. We have a program of retrofits. Michelle touched on it before. It is a program that foresees the retrofit of 3,000 buildings. More than 150 have already been contracted and almost completed, and there is a pipeline of more than 200 to come. We have programs also addressing infrastructure. 100% of the water used for irrigation, for public irrigation in Ras Al Khaimah, is recycled water. Over 90% of the street lighting has already been converted to LED. And also we are working on transportation. So we have initiatives that are a little bit at the intersection between transportation and infrastructure. So we are working with the utility on expanding the network of chargers. So we want to support also the adoption of electric vehicles. But we have also programs meant to upgrade also existing new conventional vehicles. So we want to also promote efficient conventional vehicles, not only electric vehicles. The industrial sector is also very important for us. It represents about 40% of the energy consumption of Ras Al Khaimah. And we want to support the industrial sector in a journey towards reducing their energy costs by adopting renewable energy and also by developing capacity, developing competencies, sharing best practices, giving visibility to participants of different sides, different capabilities of the opportunities that are there in addressing energy consumption.
And so that was the energy efficiency side of it. Are there also a supply side of the equation under the strategy for 2040?
Absolutely. So there is also a supply side, and so we target adoption of renewable energy in both in terms of utility scale projects, for which we are already allocating the land for some future developments, and also distributed renewables, where we have launched last year a first group tender, putting together private and public sectors in a tender to deploy the first projects of distributed renewables of rooftop rooftop PV in Ras Al Khaimah.
Thank you, Andrea. It seems like there's quite a comprehensive strategy outlined. Are there any particular areas that are sort of more challenging than others, and areas where you really have to wrestle to get the outcomes that you're looking for?
I think the region started dealing with energy efficiency now a little more than 10 years ago. Started by the beginning of year 2000, the first decade, and all the main economies have started doing something. Saudi Arabia has initiated some efforts, for example, in the green building space. Then in the UAE, there were also important efforts made in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, in Ras Al Khaimah. Everyone, the main economies have set some initial frameworks. I think these frameworks have been successful. I can speak for Ras Al Khaimah. I think the strategy started in 2018. And after 3 years, most of the programs are active. There is a big momentum. It is also true, however, that now we need to think about more ambitious targets. The target of 2050 of the UAE for zero emissions is a very challenging target. It was followed also by similar commitments from other countries in the region. It is a very challenging target and requires a reconsideration of the situation, of the challenges, of the barriers. There are, of course, barriers. There are things we need to work on, such as, for example, policies and regulations for renewable energy to support more adoption of renewable energy, access to the grid, the possibility for people, for companies, for governments to generate energy, distribute it to the grid, and use it somewhere else. These are all things that we need to work on. The advantage that we have is that technology is there. So we are not inventing, we are not making major technology inventions. So technology is for large part there. We have already a number of partners, a number of companies that are capable in the region. So it is more a matter of supporting the sector towards achieving business cases that are already available.
Yeah, thank you. I think on that note, probably good to turn to Ahmed and hear exactly on the technologies that you mentioned, Andrea. Ahmed, your company provides solutions that are exactly targeting energy efficiency and also increasing productivity. That, of course, then also helps on the broader energy transition and climate change. Can you tell us a bit about what solutions you're offering and how they actually help in this broader transition?
Sure. So in Schneider Electric, we provide all the technical technologies that allows our customer to enhance efficiency and reduce the CO2 emissions from operations itself and from generation. Together with our partner Aviva, with our partner company Aviva, we provide an IoT platform that is called EcoStructure. And in this EcoStructure, you are able to properly manage, control, and read all the data that are coming from your assets. The EcoStructure comprises of 3 layers. First layer is the devices that you have on the field that are consuming the electricity. That is the main part that is consuming the electricity in your process and in your operations. And in order to control, you have to read what is happening on the field, and you have to understand what is happening on the field. That's why we provide the field equipment with the proper sensors that will be able to take the proper readings in terms of electricity consumption, in terms of temperature, and all the parameters that allows you to understand what is happening on the field. Taking it to the next layer, which is the second level of operations, which is what we call the edge control of EcoStructure. Edge control allows the operators in the field to manage properly the operations that they have. So they have the readings that are coming from the field devices, and they have the control systems that allows them to efficiently and effectively run the operations on the field. Taking this eventually to the third level, which is the cloud level and the software level, that allows you to do proper analysis on the electricity consumption of the asset, on the health of the asset, on the maintenance programs of the assets, that gives you readings, recommendations, using experts and using artificial intelligence in many cases as well, to give you the proper recommendation on how to efficiently and effectively run the asset and run the operations that you have. And this is coming from an industry expert that will tell you that by changing those parameters, by changing this equipment, by modifying the temperature setting, for example, in your process, you will save energy and you will reduce the CO2 emissions. This is the technology that we are providing to the market, open technology that connects with all the different products and different solutions that you might have in your facilities, which is a very important point. Because as we said at the beginning, the collaboration and cooperation between all the stakeholders in the process is extremely important. We also help our customers to properly purchase electricity. What Michael was saying at the beginning, on how to go through power purchasing agreements, how to properly structure a renewable energy, solar energy, renewable energy, that allows you to become more sustainable in terms of the production, and that allows you to have the right cost, the right ROI, providing the right business model that allows us to partner with local companies and with other system integrators to provide such services to the market using the technologies that we have in Schneider Electric. We also can provide consultation services to our customers in their sustainability journey and sustainability roadmap. Being one of the most sustainable companies worldwide, we have developed expertise and experience in the sustainability for the last 15 years. We can provide also consultation to our customers, to the private sector, to the government sector, on how to properly structure the sustainability journey and the sustainability KPIs and the implementation of the KPIs in order to reach to the proper objectives on the long term. Schneider Electric itself acts very positively to the climate change in the world. We are one of the companies that are taking the lead, that are discussing the topic, and that are engaging and taking proper commitments and pledges to make sure that we will go to what we need in the coming years. We have the following targets as Schneider Electric and the following impacts by 2025. 80% of our revenues should come from green products. 800 million tons of CO2 emissions should be saved or avoided with our customers and for our customers since 2018. 1,000 of our top suppliers to reduce the CO2 emissions in their operations by at least 50%. And I want to end by something here. Technology is one part of the equation. Technology has to be combined with the regulations, with the government regulations, and we are good and happy and glad to be in the UAE at this point of time, where the regulations are moving properly in the right direction, and the commitments that are taken by the government are really up to the expectations. And the second part is the technology, and the third part is the go-to-market or the model to serve the customers, in which companies like Emerge, for example, provides a great added value to the market by providing the proper financing, the proper engagement, and the proper agreements to serve our customers. So with a combination of all the value chain players, we will be able to achieve it together.
Thanks, Zach. one could maybe even say that it's sort of an ecosystem where there are a lot of different components that needs to play well together in order to achieve what we all see is the right forward. Actually, on that point, Andrea, if you allow me, I'll turn back to you again to hear your views on exactly the collaboration between the public and the private sector. What are you doing there, and what do you see is important in order to achieve the targets that we set for 2040 and beyond?
Well, I would start from one fact. The government in Ras Al Khaimah, in the region, in Western economies, typically represents a relatively small portion of the total energy consumption of the economy. In Ras Al Khaimah, it represents a share of about 10% of the total energy consumption of the area. Therefore, the private sector is the sector that is, in the end, benefiting most from energy efficiency. Directly, I would say, directly from the savings, the monetary savings that are coming from a lower energy consumption. All the programs of our strategy, Ras Al Khaimah, have a strong business case for participants, meaning they have very attractive returns from they entail very attractive returns from the investments that are made. Typically, when we propose some retrofit projects to our stakeholders or to the private sector, I ask the question: Do you have in your portfolio of projects many projects with a better IRR than the retrofits that you are proposing? And very often the answer is no, because these projects are extremely attractive from a return perspective. So then I would say, what is the reason for the government? What is the rationale for the government in engaging there? It is the fact that energy efficiency generates a number of indirect benefits for the economy. It means, first of all, a lower cost of energy for businesses. Lower cost of energy means higher cost competitiveness of the economy. It means spend that could be directed from the savings that are made in the energy spend to investments in the core business. Therefore, it means growth. Therefore, it means attractive markets, attracting more FDI, foreign direct investment, etc. It's a positive circle that comes from there. A second consideration is the fact that investments in energy efficiency for the government are mean basically a higher fiscal multiplier than other types of investments. And this is because energy efficiency is typically provided with local supply chains, meaning with local jobs that generate then indirect benefits on the economy. This is why the government of Ras Al Khaimah is investing, is allocating resources to energy efficiency to support the market, so by means of setting frameworks, setting collaboration platforms with the private sector, basically making sure that the wheel is running. Also placing the first projects, placing there some incentives. Ras Al Khaimah today is probably the best in terms of cost competitiveness of setting up a new business. It's probably the best place in this territory, one of the best places in this territory. And in particular in the energy sector, where some incentives also have been put in place.
Thank you, Andrea. Turning to you, Russell. You, of course, provide of solutions as well and collaborate with the public sector as well. I'd be keen on hearing sort of the perspective from your side on this collaboration, right? Both in terms of what you are doing in order to support the agenda, but also what you need in order to see that you can deploy the technologies to go in the right direction.
Sure. I mean, as Andrea already said, it's also very important for us that we start off with looking in our carbon footprint, right? If you go to emission net zero, then it's important what your support, your supply chain creates, what you support, what you create, and also your customers or your products in the end, which you are bringing into the market. So we have started doing this within the company. So we are looking at our vendors, our suppliers, what is their footprint, how the CO2 creation started, then what we are doing as a company, where we can save. I mean, energy is one thing, but what about waste and all these things? So there's a lot of, let's say, focus on things like this in the moment within our own company, right? Mm-hmm. And when it comes to the point that the products we deliver in the moment to our clients, I mean, energy is only one part of our, let's say, supply to customers, to the market. We have marine and other parts of it, but we are making sure that the products we are delivering today to our clients support them in the future, also towards the 2050 net zero. It starts off now with simple solar, which doesn't physically create, let's say, carbon footprint. However, we have existing diesel engines which are more fuel efficient than others. We see a shift, or we try to create a shift from diesel to gas, if possible, to reduce the carbon footprint and the emissions. So there are many things out there right now. You I said before, e-vehicles is one of them. So we are designing and releasing very shortly the first e-vehicle hub designed and built here in the UAE. So that could be basically put anywhere where there's a requirement either to top up a car or to fully charge it. Then we have biogas. So we are working on an in-house design of a modular biogas plant, which basically could be anywhere in the world. So it's not only the UAE market, it serves the greater Middle East, maybe Africa. And again, it's all in the good of the customer. Where there is a waste, where there is a need of energy. And I mean, we talked about big, let's say, energy transmission. It's very expensive, even though governments talk to each other. So I think the whole decentralization of energy is a very important factor. And as Andrea said before, I think it's a very great initiative of the government in Ras Al Khaimah to look at what space on housing is available, where can we put solar panels on. I mean, the footprint is already there, grid connection is already there, so we can actually reduce, let's say, investing in big grid, however, still supply the consumers with the energy required. And as Nawal said before, it's very important that the government sets the rules and regulations for it, because it's a very important market, it's a very important, let's say, transition, and it needs to be controlled somehow.
Yeah, thank you, Russell. I'll turn to you now, then, as a follow-up. We've talked a lot about, I would say, technologies and collaboration that are there, but of course, we might not have all the technologies, at least at scale, that is required to drive this transition here. Now, what is your perspective in terms of how innovative technologies are helping to transform this sector? What new technologies should we be looking into, and how is that seen from the ministry's perspective?
Yes, so thank you, Simon. Like my other colleagues said, when it comes to achieve and to progress towards sustainable and green energy industry, a core pillar that comes in our mind is exploring opportunities on investing in R&D and innovative technologies with our partners, either in international or the local level, and also with the partnership with the public-private partnership. So in the renewable energy market, it is changing thanks to falling prices and increased demand for clean energy sources due to deploying of this innovative technology. And thanks to our record in UAE for the low levelized cost of electricity, and a number of prevailing factors that give UAE a competitive advantage, where we have achieved 1.35 cents a kilowatt hour for the project. And this only could happen due to utilize and deploying the best and innovative technology that is existing at the current. Also, if you recall that in October, as my colleague said, that UAE announced the net zero by 2050, the strategic initiative, making the Emirates the first in the MENA region to do so. As a part of this goal, we plan to invest $163 billion And this is part of, within this plan, we are targeting to invest on those R&Ds, projects and technologies. The emergence of renewable energy and how we can evolve and reshape the world market, power market, and renewable-driven change continue with the unprecedented speed, even though due to several years. Some of those changes can have could be happen gradually or sudden, or you have to see a rapidly significant change, for instance, due to different factors. And when it's come to the ministry, we are seeing that the renewable energy is the future, and we are keen to invest with our partnership and to look to for instance, to grab the opportunities to see where we can invest our partnership with the country, leading countries or companies like yourselves in renewable energy such as wind, solar, hydrogen, CCUS technologies, hydropower. We also looking in the electrification side, power to X as well. And we also focusing on distributed generation, energy storage, and so on. So all of these are within the plan, as UAE is already refreshing a strategy, energy strategy 2050, to include all these new sources of clean and renewable energy to its strategy.
Thank you, Nawal. It seems like many of these technologies could maybe for some of us seem like they're very far away, right? Maybe you can help talk to what can the private sector expect in terms of sort of specific concrete initiatives or projects that would come in the shorter term in these areas, or rather maybe correct me and say maybe it's more for the long term.
Can you, Simon, in regards to projects, as you said, as our role as a ministry, we are a regulatory body and a federal umbrella for all the champions and stakeholders within the Emirate. So basically, we draft and craft the strategies, policies, regulation to ensure that those technologies and those private sectors had the correct or attractive investors or attractive environment to innovate and to deliver the innovative solutions when it comes to technologies. UAE is keen to be a hub for hydrogen, as we stated in our leadership roadmap, that we are targeting 25% of the market share of hydrogen globally. So yes, we are doing a lot of strategies, and we are refreshing the energy strategy 2050 currently with IRENA and Khalifa University. We kicked the project recently. We also are looking to have a detailed hydrogen strategy for 2050, which is the next step for us after launching the roadmap, to ensure that we have all the enablers for private sectors and for those who want to invest in UAE, have the correct tools and environment to invest in UAE. We also have a lot of programs like the National Demand Side program that was launched earlier last year that focus on reducing the consumption of energy and water as well. So there is a lot of projects that are going on.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And so it's not just the long term; it's also about what is happening and being deployed in the near term. Michelle, if I may turn to you then and hear your perspectives, right? Because I know that the things that you're working on with Emerge are helping organizations today essentially to achieve their goals, right? How do you see your company's contributions in the broader sort of Abu Dhabi and the UAE landscape and in their energy efficiency strategies?
Well, we have already, I can tell you from experience, we have already, so we have a project which is already in operation, which is the Abu Dhabi Airport 3 megawatt car park plant that is operating since about 1 year. So this is a clear example of how, renewable energy could be installed on a commercial or industrial site and producing energy, which is, as we said before, win-win, because the client is getting a cheaper tariff. We are also recouping our investment over the next 30 years. We are already also installing 7 megawatt PV plant on the rooftop of Warner Brothers, which is the theme park here in Abu Dhabi. And that theme park, that will be the first theme park in the GCC to be solar powered. We are offsetting 40% of the theme park's energy consumption. So of course, the more you see similar projects, the more you are contributing to the targets set by the Abu Dhabi government and by the UAE. And currently we are talking to a number of other clients, whether it's on the solar PV side or on the energy efficiency side. It's clear you are in a climate where we are blessed with so much sun. So definitely there's a potential of using that energy. And even though the Abu Dhabi tariff is one of the cheapest among the other Emirates, but even with 20 fils per kilowatt hour, we are able to produce a competitive offer to our clients, whether it's on energy efficiency or solar energy. So I can tell you the next years will be very good for us and for other energy service company, because awareness is increasing, the regulations are there, and the technology, as my colleagues mentioned, that technology is currently able. You have enough advancements in the technology on either renewables or energy efficiency to reach to that amazing ROI. I mean, Andrea said it is really too good to be true sometimes. It's just that because it's new, our clients can ask many questions and take time to take a decision. But the reality is that the technology is available. The business case is proven. It's not the first time we do it. In the world, I mean, ESCO projects have been around for more than 30 years, in the UAE more than 10 years. It's just that I think the next few years will show us much more interest and more assigned projects in this regard.
It's very reassuring, and it's super nice again to see that that sometimes the returns are too good to be true, right? That's something that surely can encourage the different sectors to deploy these types of technologies in order to reduce their emissions. I think we have time for one last question. Raso, if I may ask you, still focusing on this, you mentioned a lot of different technologies that you see is important in order to essentially achieve sustainable development. Do you have a view in terms of what the your customers should deploy today, and what are sort of the opportunities to do something today versus what they should be doing in the future, how that develops over time?
Yeah, I mean, now I talked about, and also Andrea, that the technology is there in very different, let's say, versions and applications. I think it's very important now for our clients to put this together to make it applicable. Everybody talks about solar, but solar alone doesn't help if I don't have a storage for it. Then hydrogen comes in. Hydrogen doesn't help alone. You need an engine. You need a source to use this hydrogen. And I think this is all things which are coming now together. And I mean, COP26 showed very much that it is important that we have to do it. So it's not a question of do we do it or not. It's a question of how quick we can do it, right? So let's say, even from our part, I mean, with the manufacturers, with the principles we are working on, there's already a full 100%, let's say, engine running on hydrogen by 2023. Fuel cells are already in place. So it's a matter of now bringing infrastructure together, bringing the supply together, using the solar power, storing the solar power, use it when you need it, not when it's created, or storage or store it in certain, like hydrogen or whatsoever. Then you can transport it also without having major, let's say, energy transmission. So it's very important. The short-term goal is now the existing technology to use it as fast as possible, as good as possible, as efficient as possible. Let's say diesel engines, gas turbines, they will not disappear from today and tomorrow. They will continue be in place. However, they need to get much more efficient. And then obviously future technologies, hydrogen is one of them, and 35% of the market to be produced, let's say, in Abu Dhabi. That's a big, let's say, vision. However, this will only work if, number one, you can use it, you can store it, and you can transport it in a way where it's efficient and where also people have the money to pay for it. So it's a kind of economic. But with the demand, I think it's changing rapidly. There are so many, let's say, different, I would say, projects in place right now where a hydrogen boat is produced. It can be driven here in the UAE. So even with the harsh environment, which is, we know, all different than in other places in the world, However, the infrastructure is not there. So how can I build the infrastructure? I can use solar right now. I can use a fuel cell to convert it into hydrogen. I use the hydrogen part. So there are many things which have to come together now and make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe one quick question. You mentioned this on one side that some of the existing technologies will need to be there for some time. And the important part there is to make them more efficient. While on the other hand, you also mentioned that the momentum is picking up. One could sort of see that as sort of contradictory statements. I would agree with you, but maybe you can share your views on how these two, I would say, different views then come together in your planning for the next 5 to 10 years.
Sure. I mean, you have existing technology, and this will not phase out. If I need quick power today, if it's a critical application, if it's mission, let's say, important because it's a disaster, as example. I mean, we have seen it recently in the States. We have seen it in Asia Pacific with earthquakes, tsunamis, whatsoever. The quickest way is a diesel power. I deploy this generator, 10 seconds later, I have full power, which no other application have this right now, and it can be moved easily, right? However, stating that, these generators may be equipped with more efficient diesel engines, means the consumption is lower, the carbon footprint is less, and that can be done very quickly. I mean, we can see this already today, and Andrea mentioned it before, refitting buildings with solar panels as example. I will not build a new building because I need more efficiency. What can I do with this building? I can put solar on the top, I can isolate it or insulate it. So there are many things, and this is happening throughout the thing. I think there are many solar panels today already in place. However, they're not controlled well. They are not feeding into a storage. And I think, as Ahmed said it here, the technology is today available to control the microgrid. It's a small microgrid, right? There's an energy source, there may be a storage chute, there's a consumer. It needs to be controlled properly. And I think this is more and more important, and this is happening today. So I don't think so it's a 5-year plan that this will come in place. It started today. It started actually a couple of years ago, but really it takes momentum now. What is existing? Does it need to be converted to actually sustain the next 10 years or whatever application is? What needs to be done to replace existing, let's say, energy sources with much more carbon neutral versions, right? Where can it be done? And I think all this energy transmission, storage, decentralization of grid, it takes a big part of it. It's now a matter of where it's applicable and how can it be done and where is it economical as well. I mean, in the end, somebody has to pay for it. And as Michel said, win-win situations, everybody likes that. And I think this pushes this whole drive of net zero further to not to spend money only, also to get the return on investment.
Thank you, Russell. And with that, I would like to wrap up our session today. Some of the key takeaways for me is one of them is on momentum, right? And it does seem like we are all talking about either we see the action on the ground or we see that there are projects being developed or initiatives being deployed in order to spur more momentum. I like the quote of saying it's not a matter of whether, it's a matter of how quick things will happen, right? I think that is a very nice, I would say, observation of how things are going today. It is also linked to the opportunities, right? That there are opportunities in this transition for all of us. Sometimes the returns are great already today. Sometimes there's regulation that needs to be put in place in order to drive the developments that we see, right? But there are opportunities around both for the companies and for the customers. I like the conversation that we had around energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is by some called the first fuel, right? The first sort of solution to get to a net zero pathway. It has sometimes, many times, really good economics for customers. There's a lot of opportunities to develop it. It is requiring a lot of technologies. And then it was also mentioned that it actually also can have good socio-economic, I would say, impact on the UAE, right? Because there's UAE labor that is actually used to deploy these technologies. And on that collaboration, the ecosystem was a big part of the discussion, right? I would say we have representative here for many different parts of that ecosystem. We need technology providers, we need service providers, we need, of course, the consumers the regulators, the entire landscape there is required in order to drive this transition. And it's the collaboration between them that sort of facilitates the way forward. So with that, thank you to all of you. Thank you for our panelists for sharing your views on how businesses, the government, and the industry. Thank you for Forbes Middle East for organizing the panel today, and the exclusive partner Masaood Power Division. And finally, thank you for all the viewers for joining us this afternoon.